Humans are inherently social creatures. From our very first breaths, we are enfolded in families, nurtured by communities, and shaped by the expectations of groups. Our survival once depended on the protection and wisdom of the herd. To stray too far from our tribe was to face danger and uncertainty alone. This ancient inheritance still profoundly influences us today, making us acutely sensitive to the beliefs, behaviors, and judgments of those around us. This powerful force, known as conformity, governs much of our thinking and behavior, often without our conscious awareness. Conformity is, in essence, the act of aligning our thoughts, feelings, or behaviors with those of a group or with social norms. Although it might seem like an abstract psychological principle, conformity manifests in surprisingly concrete ways in our daily lives. Imagine, for instance, entering a crowded elevator and finding everyone else facing the back wall. Your instinct, almost automatically, is to turn and face the same direction, despite years of habit and experience suggesting otherwise. Why do so many of us succumb to these social cues, often without question? The reasons are as complex and varied as human nature itself. At the heart of conformity lies a fundamental need: belongingness. Evolution has wired us to seek the approval and acceptance of our peers. In prehistoric times, exclusion from the group could mean losing access to resources or confronting predators alone. Olfactory or visual signals about group unity were crucial for safety. Standing out put individuals at risk. The echoes of these threats still reverberate within us, manifesting as an urge to fit in, to avoid ridicule, and to seek harmony. Even today, being ostracized or rejected can be psychologically painful, triggering the same neural pathways as physical pain. But conformity is not merely about blending in for safety. It also serves as a shortcut for navigating a complex world. From early childhood, we look to others for cues about how to behave, what to value, and what to believe. If everyone around us wears shoes indoors or observes a particular holiday, we are likely to adopt these practices ourselves. In such cases, conformity conserves cognitive resources. We don't have to constantly weigh every decision from first principles. Instead, we rely on the collective wisdom of the group, assuming that if so many people do something, there must be a good reason. Psychologists have long been fascinated by the mechanisms of conformity. One of the most famous demonstrations is Solomon Asch's line experiment from the 1950s. In this study, participants were asked to judge the lengths of lines alongside a group of Confederates who had been instructed to give obviously wrong answers. The results were both startling and illuminating. More than 1/3 of participants went along with the obviously incorrect majority, even when the correct answer was unmistakable. Interestingly, when participants wrote their answers privately, the rate of conformity dropped dramatically. This highlights our acute sensitivity to group observation and the power of social pressure. What compels us to go along with the crowd, even when we are sure the crowd is wrong? There are two main forms of social influence at play: normative and informational. Normative influence arises from our desire to be liked or accepted. We conform because we don't want to stand out, provoke disapproval, or spark conflict. Informational influence, on the other hand, reflects our need to be right. When we are uncertain or lack confidence, we look to others who seem knowledgeable, assuming the group knows something we do not. Normative conformity is evident in countless everyday situations. Consider the simple act of dressing for a social event. Although we may have our own fashion preferences, we often tailor our style to fit the expectations of the occasion and the group attending. To show up in swimwear at a formal wedding would invite criticism and embarrassment, regardless of our personal comfort. Similarly, children learn from a young age to follow classroom rules, even if those edicts seem arbitrary. They quickly grasp that deviation leads to disapproval from teachers and peers alike. Informational conformity tends to occur in scenarios of ambiguity. Imagine being in a foreign country and observing locals quietly removing their shoes before entering a temple. Even without an explicit instruction, you're likely to follow suit, trusting that those with more experience possess knowledge you lack. In new workplaces, employees often adopt the work habits jargon, and unwritten rules of their colleagues, relying on these cues to avoid costly missteps. Beyond these everyday examples, the tendency to conform can be heightened in situations of crisis or uncertainty. Take, for instance, the phenomenon of mass panic. In emergencies, people often look to others for cues about how to react. If a few individuals bolt for the exit at the sign of smoke, others are likely to follow, sometimes blindly, even if the danger is not immediately clear. The desire not to be left behind, combined with the assumption that others have information we lack, can rapidly escalate into herd behavior. Cultural context significantly shapes the way conformity manifests. In individualistic societies, like those of North America, there may be greater value placed on independence and self-expression. Here, standing out, at least within certain bounds, can be seen as virtuous or admirable. In collectivist cultures, such as those in East Asia, harmony and group cohesion are emphasized. Conformity is seen less as weakness and more as an act of respect, a means of maintaining social order and minimizing conflict. These cultural values are internalized from a young age, subtly nudging us toward appropriate levels of conformity depending on our societal context. But are there dangers in our propensity to conform? History offers sobering lessons. When conformity overrides ethical reasoning, it can lead individuals to commit acts that defy their conscience. The infamous Stanley Milgram experiments on obedience illustrate this point vividly. Participants were instructed to deliver what they believed were painful electric shocks to another participant, simply because an authority figure insisted. Many complied, despite visible signs of distress. Similarly, during collective atrocities such as the Holocaust, ordinary individuals participated in horrific acts, often rationalizing their actions as merely following orders or doing what everyone else was doing. The dark side of conformity lurks in groupthink, a phenomenon wherein the desire for unanimity overrides reasoned decision-making. In such scenarios, dissent is stifled, critical thinking is suspended, and poor decisions can result, which has been blamed for business failures, government disasters, and even space shuttle catastrophes. When everyone salutes the prevailing opinion without question, vital warnings go unheeded. Yet conformity is not solely detrimental. It also binds us with a sense of shared identity, makes cooperation possible, and creates the cohesion necessary for societies to function. Without some conformity, chaos would reign. Traffic laws, workplace norms, linguistic conventions, all are forms of social agreement that require us to align our behavior with others for mutual benefit. The challenge lies in balancing the healthy aspects of conformity with independent thought. Modern life, with its constant bombardment of information, social media, and digital communication, has amplified the effects of conformity in new and sometimes surprising ways. Online, trends spread rapidly, fueled by likes, shares, and viral content. The opinions of a few influencers can cascade, setting off waves of collective behavior. At the same time, the anonymity and distance of digital life can embolden nonconformity, allowing people to express views or adopt personas they might suppress offline. Young people, in particular, are vulnerable to these forces. Adolescence is a time when the need to fit in reaches its peak. Social media platforms exploit this desire, quantifying popularity through followers and likes. The prospect of virtual approval, or the fear of missing out, can be powerful motivators, subtly shaping aspirations, beliefs, and even self-worth. The consequences are complicated. While conformity can create a sense of belonging, it can also fuel anxiety, encourage risky behavior, or perpetuate toxic trends. Scientists have explored the neurological roots of conformity by peering into the brain. Studies using functional MRI scans suggest that conforming to group opinion activates reward centers in the brain, much like receiving a compliment or a pleasant taste. When our views diverge from the group, regions associated with fear and anxiety light up. These findings reinforce the notion that conformity is not simply a learned habit, but one deeply intertwined with our emotional and biological makeup. Despite its pervasiveness, conformity is not inevitable. nor is it always irrational. There are contexts where swimming against the current is vital, and where dissenters drive progress and innovation. Galileo, who challenged the orthodoxy of his time, Rosa Parks, who refused to give up her seat, or whistleblowers who expose wrongdoing, all demonstrate the courage to defy the majority, even at great personal risk. The tension between conformity and individuality fuels creativity and safeguards freedom. Resisting undue conformity involves cultivating self-awareness and critical thinking. It means pausing to consider whether we truly share a belief or are merely echoing the majority. Seeking out diverse perspectives, questioning assumptions, and valuing evidence over popularity help immunize us against the more insidious aspects of group influence. Strong leaders and organizations encourage constructive dissent, recognizing that progress often arises when someone dares to ask, "Is this really the best way?" Not all conformity is the same. There are moments when consciously choosing to align with the group strengthens bonds and supports collective goals. But when conformity is unthinking or enforced by fear, it can hinder growth and perpetuate error. The art of living wisely lies in discerning when to go along with the crowd and when to stand apart. To understand why we so readily conform is to appreciate the deep-seated human needs at play. The desire for community, trust in collective wisdom, and the fear of standing alone. These forces have allowed societies to flourish, traditions to endure, and knowledge to accumulate. At the same time, they remind us of the importance of questioning and re-examining convention, especially in moments when the path the crowd follows leads away from truth, justice, or progress. In the tapestry of human society, conformity is one thread among many. It weaves us together, for better or worse, shaping cultures and communities. Learning to navigate its influence, to embrace both our commonality and our uniqueness, is one of the great challenges and opportunities of being human. Each day, in ways large and small, we are invited to decide, will we speak with the voice of the crowd or the voice of our conscience? Will we follow the well-trodden path or venture bravely into the unknown? The choice is not always easy, nor is it ever simple. But in that tension lies the possibility of growth, the test of our character, and the enduring adventure of human life.